Ben Carter wiped the sweat from his forehead as he walked through the crowded marketplace. The trading post orbited a dying star, and everything here looked old and broken. Rusty metal signs hung from crooked poles. Strange smells filled the air, mixing with the sound of alien languages he could not understand. He had 3 hours before his ship left. The Wanderer needed supplies, and Ben needed to stretch his legs after 2 weeks in space. Working as a cargo hauler meant long days of moving boxes and checking inventory. It paid enough to keep him fed, but not much else. The market stalls sold everything: glowing fruits that pulsed with light, weapons that hummed with energy, clothing made from materials Ben had never seen before. He passed a vendor selling what looked like bottled starlight, though he doubted it was real. Then something caught his eye. A small stall sat in the corner, almost hidden behind larger shops. An alien with 4 arms and gray skin stood behind a table covered in stones and crystals. The creature looked nervous, its large eyes darting around as if watching for someone. Ben approached slowly. Among the regular rocks sat one stone that seemed different. It was the size of his fist, smooth and dark red. Faint patterns swirled across its surface like smoke frozen in glass. When he picked it up, warmth spread through his fingers. "How much for this one?" Ben asked. The alien's eyes widened. It spoke in broken human language. "That one, 50 credits, very rare, very special, from old planet very far." 50 credits was cheap, suspiciously cheap. Ben turned the stone over in his hands. It felt heavier than it should, and the warmth never faded. Something about it seemed alive, though he could not explain why. "What is it exactly?" Ben asked. The alien's expression changed. Fear flashed across its face. "Just stone, decorative, pretty, you buy now, yes, 50 credits." Ben should have walked away. Every instinct told him this was trouble, but the stone felt right in his hand. The patterns seemed to move when he was not looking directly at them. He pulled out his credit chip and made the transfer. The alien grabbed the credits and immediately started packing up its stall. Ben barely heard the muttered words as he walked away, something about good luck and forgive me. Back on the Wanderer, Ben placed the stone in his backpack and forgot about it. The ship jumped to lightspeed, heading toward their next delivery point. Days passed in the usual routine. Wake up, check cargo, eat, sleep, repeat. But the stone never got cold. Ben noticed it 3 days into the journey. He reached into his backpack for a protein bar and touched the stone. Still warm. He pulled it out and examined it under his quarters' dim light. The pattern seemed brighter now, moving faster beneath the surface. He set it on his small desk and went to sleep. A sound woke him in the middle of the night cycle, a soft tapping like fingernails on metal. Ben opened his eyes and looked around his dark room. Nothing moved. He closed his eyes again. Tab, tab, tab. There it was again. He sat up and turned on the light. The stone sat on his desk, but something was different. A thin crack ran down one side, glowing faintly orange from within. Ben's heart raced. He stood and moved closer. The tapping came from inside the stone. Something was trying to get out. The crack widened. Small pieces of the shell fell away. Ben watched, frozen, as a tiny claw pushed through the opening. Then another. The shell broke apart, and a creature no bigger than his thumb crawled out onto the desk. It had 4 legs, a long tail, and 2 small wings folded against its body. Copper-colored scales covered every inch of it. The creature shook itself, sending tiny shell fragments flying, then looked up at Ben with bright golden eyes. A dragon. He had bought a dragon egg. The tiny creature chirped, a sound like a bird mixed with a purr. It took 2 wobbly steps forward and fell over. Ben reached out slowly, offering his hand. The dragon sniffed his finger, then climbed into his palm. Its scales felt warm and smooth. Ben's mind raced through everything he knew about alien creatures. Dragons were myths, stories told in bars by drunk spacers. They could not be real. Yet here one sat in his hand, no bigger than a mouse, looking up at him with intelligent eyes. The dragon chirped again and yawned, showing tiny sharp teeth. Then it curled up in Ben's palm and closed its eyes. Within seconds, it was asleep. Ben stood there for 10 minutes, not moving, barely breathing. He had no idea what to do. Keep it. Turn it in, sell it. Every option seemed wrong. The dragon snored softly, a little puff of smoke escaping its nose. Ben made a decision. He could not sell a living creature, especially one that fit in his hand and trusted him. Enough to sleep there. He would keep it hidden until he figured out what to do. He placed the sleeping dragon back in his backpack, nestling it among his spare clothes. The creature did not wake. Ben climbed back into bed, but sleep would not come. His life had just become very complicated. In the backpack, the tiny dragon dreamed, its scales glowing faintly in the darkness. Neither Ben nor anyone else on the Wanderer knew that the small creature would soon grow much, much bigger. And that was just the beginning. 3 weeks had changed everything. Ben knelt beside his bunk, pulling clothes out of his storage locker as quickly as he could. Behind him, something moved inside his backpack, making the whole thing shake. A small sound like a purr mixed with a growl came from within. "Quiet, Rusty," Ben whispered. "Just a few more minutes." The dragon poked its head out of the backpack. It was no longer the tiny creature that had hatched in his room. Rusty now measured the length of Ben's arm from nose to tail. Copper scales gleamed in the light, and his wings had grown large enough to lift him a few feet off the ground. Rusty chirped and climbed out, stretching his legs. His golden eyes watched Ben with obvious intelligence. The dragon had learned fast. He understood basic commands. He knew when to hide and when to stay quiet. But he was getting bigger every day, and hiding him was becoming impossible. Ben heard footsteps in the corridor outside. He grabbed Rusty and stuffed him back into the backpack. The dragon protested with a soft whine but settled down. Ben zipped the bag shut just as someone knocked on his door. "Carter, you in there?" It was Paul, one of the other cargo handlers. Ben opened the door halfway, blocking the view of his room. "Yeah, what do you need?" Paul looked tired. Dark circles sat under his eyes. "Captain wants everyone on deck in 10, something about inventory checks." "I will be there." Paul nodded but did not leave. He sniffed the air. "You cooking something in there? Smells weird." Ben's stomach dropped. Rusty had a distinct smell like hot metal and cinnamon. "Just some ration bars that went bad. I need to throw them out." "Gross anyway, 10 minutes." Paul walked away. Ben closed the door and let out a breath. This was getting too close. He opened the backpack and Rusty climbed out again, immediately going to the food bowl Ben had hidden under his bunk. The dragon ate constantly now. His appetite had grown with his body. The protein rations Ben stole from the galley were disappearing faster than he could replace them. Soon someone would notice the missing supplies. Soon someone would ask questions he could not answer. Rusty finished eating and jumped onto the bunk. He curled up on Ben's pillow, his tail wrapped around his body. A small puff of smoke came from his nostrils as he settled down for a nap. Ben reached out and scratched behind Rusty's ears. The dragon made a happy sound, pressing into his hand. Despite all the problems, Ben could not imagine his life without Rusty now. The bond between them had grown strong. Sometimes Ben could feel what Rusty felt: hunger, contentment, curiosity. It was like having another voice in his head, one that spoke in emotions instead of words. "I have to go," Ben said softly. "Stay here, stay quiet, I will bring food later." Rusty opened one eye, then closed it again. He understood. The inventory check took 2 hours. Captain Gren was a Vorlian, tall and covered in blue-gray scales with a ridge of spines running down his back. He was fair but strict, and he did not tolerate mistakes or lies. Ben stood with the other crew members as Gren walked through the cargo bay, checking every container and crate. "Someone has been taking extra rations," Gren said, his voice deep and rough. "The computer shows missing supplies. This stops now. If I find who is stealing, they go out the airlock. Understood?" Everyone nodded. Ben kept his face neutral, but inside his heart raced. He needed to be more careful. After the meeting, Ben grabbed food from the galley when no one was looking. He stuffed protein bars and dried meat into his pockets. "Dr. Lee, the ship's medical officer and part-time xenobiologist, was sitting at a table reading from a data pad. "Working late, Carter?" Lee asked without looking up. "Just grabbing a snack." "You have been grabbing a lot of snacks lately. Everything okay?" Ben forced a smile. "Just hungry, long shifts." Lee looked at him over the top of the data pad. Her eyes were sharp and missed nothing. "If you need more rations, just ask the captain. No need to sneak around." "I will, thanks." Ben left quickly. His hands were shaking. How many people had noticed something was wrong? How long before someone connected the missing food to him? Back in his room, Rusty was awake and waiting. The dragon had grown again. His head now reached Ben's knee when standing on all fours. The backpack would not hide him anymore. "We have a problem, buddy," Ben said, sitting on the floor. Rusty walked over and put his head in Ben's lap. "You are getting too big. I cannot hide you much longer." Rusty made a sad sound. His tail curled around Ben's leg. Ben had been researching whenever he could. Dragons were not myths after all. They were real but rare. Most species had been hunted to extinction or near extinction. Their scales, bones, and organs were valuable, worth fortunes. People killed them without thinking twice. If the crew found out about Rusty, what would they do? Would they protect him? Or would they see credits and nothing else? A loud alarm suddenly blared through the ship. Red lights flashed in the corridor. Ben jumped to his feet. Rusty spread his wings, startled. "All crew to stations," Gren's voice came through the speakers. "Fire detected in Section 7. Move now." Section 7, that was close, too close. Ben looked at Rusty, then at the door. He could not leave the dragon here if there was a real fire, but he could not take him either. Rusty made the decision for him. The dragon folded his wings tight against his body and jumped into the ventilation shaft, squeezing through the grate. He looked back once at Ben, then disappeared into the darkness. Ben ran to his station, praying that whatever was happening would end quickly, and that Rusty would stay hidden until it did. The fire alarm stopped, but the damage was done. Ben stood in the corridor outside his quarters, watching crew members rush past with extinguishers and tools. Smoke poured from the ventilation grates. His chest tightened with panic. Rusty was in there somewhere. "Carter, get your gear and help with the search," Gren ordered, walking past with two other crew members. "Something is moving in the vents. Could be a malfunction or a pest. Either way, we need to find it." Ben's blood ran cold. They were hunting for Rusty. He grabbed a flashlight and a portable scanner, pretending to help while actually trying to warn Rusty away. He tapped on the vent covers as he walked, a pattern he had taught the dragon. 3 short taps, 2 long ones. Hide, stay quiet. But Rusty was scared. Ben could feel it through their bond. Fear pulsed in his chest, mixed with confusion. The dragon did not understand why people were chasing him. "Found something," Paul called from the end of the hall. "Big heat signature moving towards Section 4. Everyone ran in that direction. Ben followed, his mind racing through options. He could create a distraction. He could claim he saw something elsewhere, but every plan fell apart before it formed. They cornered Rusty in the cargo bay. The dragon stood on top of a supply crate, wings spread wide, tail lashing back and forth. He was bigger now, the size of a large dog, and his scales glowed orange with stress. Smoke came from his nostrils in short bursts. The crew stopped. Silence fell over the bay. Everyone stared. "What in the void is that?" Gren whispered. Rusty's eyes found Ben in the crowd. The dragon's fear spiked. Ben felt it like a knife in his gut. Rusty thought Ben had betrayed him. "Everyone stay back," Dr. Lee said, stepping forward slowly. "Unknown species could be dangerous." Rusty growled, a sound that rumbled deep in his chest. Small flames flickered between his teeth. Ben could not let this happen. He pushed through the crowd and stepped between the crew and the dragon. "Stop! Do not hurt him." Gren's eyes narrowed. "You know what this creature is, Carter." "His name is Rusty. He is mine. I found his egg 3 weeks ago." Gasps and mutters spread through the crew. Gren's face darkened with anger. You brought an unidentified alien creature onto my ship without authorization. Are you insane? I did not know what he was, Ben said, keeping his voice steady. The egg looked like a rock. By the time he hatched, I could not just throw him out. You should have reported it immediately. Gren took a step forward. That thing has been eating our supplies, living in our vents, endangering everyone on this ship. Behind Ben, Rusty made a sad sound. The dragon's wings drooped. He did not understand the words, but he understood the anger. He is not dangerous, Ben said. He is smart, he understands commands, he has never hurt anyone. It is growing, Gren said flatly. What happens when it gets bigger? What happens when it decides it is hungry and we look like food? That will not happen. You do not know that. Gren looked past Ben at Rusty. That creature is worth money, a lot of money. We could sell it to collectors, split the profit among the crew. Ben's hands curled into fists. He is not cargo. Everything is cargo if the price is right. Doctor. Lee moved closer to Rusty, her scanner held out. The dragon watched her but did not move. Lee studied the readings, her eyes widening as she read. Captain, I need to examine this creature properly. Can we move it to the med bay? It is not going anywhere until we decide what to do with it, Gren said. Captain, please. Lee turned to face him. I think I know what species this is. If I am right, this is incredibly important. Gren crossed his arms. Explain. Lee took a breath. Based on the scale pattern, heat signature, and skeletal structure, I believe this is a flame drake. They were thought to be extinct, hunted down centuries ago for their valuable parts. Murmurs spread through the crew again. Everyone knew about flame drakes. The stories said they could breathe fire hot enough to melt steel. They could fly through space without protection. They bonded with other species and never forgot a kindness or a betrayal. If that is a flame drake, one crew member said, it is worth millions, maybe more. Gren's expression shifted. Ben could see the calculation happening behind his eyes, credits versus risk, profit versus problems. We dock at Station Meridian in 2 days, Gren said finally. The creature stays locked in the cargo bay until then. We will contact buyers and see what offers we get. No, Ben said. That was not a request, Carter. Gren's voice turned cold. You brought an illegal creature onto my ship. You stole supplies. You lied to your captain. I could have you arrested. The only reason I am not is because you found something valuable. Be grateful. Ben turned to look at Rusty. The dragon's eyes were locked on him, wide and afraid. The bond between them hummed with distress. I will not let you sell him, Ben said quietly. Then you can leave at Meridian, Gren replied. With nothing, your choice. Cooperate and get a share of the profit or walk away empty-handed. Paul stepped forward. Captain, maybe we should think about this. The kid raised it from an egg. They have a bond. A bond does not pay for fuel and repairs, Gren snapped. 2 days. Carter, you are confined to quarters. Someone get that drake secured. 2 crew members moved toward Rusty with a net. The dragon roared and fire exploded from his mouth. Everyone jumped back. The flames hit the ceiling, scorching metal. Ben ran to Rusty and grabbed his neck. Stop, please, it is okay. Rusty stopped. Immediately, he pressed against Ben, trembling. The dragon trusted him completely. Ben looked at the crew, at their frightened faces and greedy eyes. He had 2 days to figure out how to save Rusty's life, 2 days to find a way out of this nightmare. And he had no idea where to start. Ben sat on the floor of his locked quarters with his back against the door. On the other side, he could hear crew members walking past, their voices low and cautious. They were afraid now, afraid of what Rusty might do, afraid of what keeping him might cost. But Ben knew the truth. The only thing to fear was what humans would do to Rusty. The dragon lay beside him, head resting on Ben's lap. Rusty had grown again. His body stretched nearly 6 feet from nose to tail. His wings, when fully extended, could touch both walls of the small room. The copper scales had darkened to a deep bronze, and his eyes held a sadness that made Ben's heart ache. I am sorry, Ben whispered, running his hand down Rusty's neck. I should have protected you better. Rusty made a low rumbling sound. Through their bond, Ben felt forgiveness mixed with trust. The dragon did not blame him. That somehow made it worse. Ben had spent the last 6 hours searching every file he could access about flame drakes. What he found was disturbing. The species had nearly been wiped out 200 years ago. Hunting parties tracked them across the galaxy. Their scales made the best armor. Their bones could be ground into medicine. Their fire glands sold for fortunes to weapons manufacturers. Only a few survived, hidden on remote planets or protected by sympathetic species. Their eggs were the most valuable prize of all, worth more than most ships, worth more than lives. The file mentioned something else. Flame drakes bonded psychically with other beings. Once bonded, they could share thoughts and feelings. They felt each other's pain and joy. Separation caused both partners terrible suffering, sometimes death. Ben closed his eyes. If Gren sold Rusty, the bond would break. Ben did not know if he could survive that. A soft knock came at the door. "Carter, it is Lee. Can I come in?" Ben stood and unlocked the door. The doctor slipped inside quickly, glancing down the corridor before closing it behind her. She carried a data pad and a small medical kit. "I need to examine him," Lee said, nodding toward Rusty. "For real this time, not just scanner readings." "Why, so you can tell Gren how much he is worth." Lee's expression softened. "So I can help you." Ben studied her face, looking for lies. He found none. "What do you mean?" "I have been researching too," Lee said, sitting down beside Rusty. The dragon watched her but did not move away. "Flame drakes bond for life. If someone takes him from you, it could kill you both." "I know." "Then you know you need a plan." Lee opened her data pad. "I can help, but I need to understand the bond first. How strong is it?" Ben hesitated, then decided to trust her. "I can feel what he feels, his emotions, sometimes images. When he is scared, my heart races. When he is happy, I feel lighter." Lee made notes. "Can you communicate, send thoughts?" "Not exactly. It is more like understanding without words. I know what he wants, what he needs." Rusty lifted his head and sniffed Lee's hand. She scratched behind his ears, and the dragon closed his eyes with pleasure. "He is magnificent," Lee said quietly. "And you are right, he is not cargo, he is a person." "Tell that to Gren." "The captain is desperate," Lee said. "The ship needs repairs we cannot afford. This seems like an easy solution, but I think I can change his mind." "How?" Before Lee could answer, an alarm blared through the ship. Not the fire alarm. The combat alert. Red lights flashed and Gren's voice came through the speakers, tight with tension. "All crew to stations. We have received a distress signal. Civilian transport under attack. Prepare for possible engagement." Lee stood quickly. "I have to go. Stay here. Keep him calm." She left, locking the door behind her. Ben moved to the small window in his room. Space spread out before him, vast and empty. Then he saw it. A ship in the distance, trailing fire and debris. Another ship circled it like a predator, smaller and faster. Pirates. The Wanderer changed course, moving toward the attacked vessel. Ben felt the engines vibrate through the walls. They were going to help. But the Wanderer was a cargo hauler, not a warship. Against pirates, they had little chance. The ship shuddered, an impact. The pirates had fired on them, another hit and the lights flickered. Rusty stood, growling. His scales began to glow, responding to the danger. Ben could hear shouting in the corridors, crew members running. The ship shuddered again, harder this time. Systems began failing, the artificial gravity wavered, making Ben's stomach flip. They were losing. Through the bond, Ben felt Rusty's instincts awakening. The dragon wanted to fight, wanted to protect. The urge was so strong it made Ben's muscles tense. "We are locked in here," Ben said. "We cannot help." Rusty looked at him with those golden eyes. An image flashed in Ben's mind. The cargo bay, the outer doors, space. "No," Ben said. "You cannot survive out there. It is vacuum." Another image. Rusty flying through stars, fire in the void. ancient memories that were not Ben's own. Flame drakes were born in space. They thrived in it. Ben understood then. The files were wrong or incomplete. Rusty could survive outside, could fight outside. The ship took another hit. This one was bad. Alarms screamed. The gravity failed completely and Ben floated up from the floor. Emergency lighting cast everything in red. He made a decision. Ben forced open the door using the emergency release. The corridor was chaos. Crew members in magnetic boots rushed past. He pulled himself along the wall toward the cargo bay, Rusty flying beside him in the zero gravity. They reached the bay. Ben accessed the controls and sealed the inner door, just him and Rusty. The dragon seemed to understand. He positioned himself near the outer door. "Are you sure?" Ben asked. Rusty's answer came as pure emotion, confidence, purpose, love. Ben hit the button. The outer doors opened, and air rushed out into space. Rusty spread his wings and flew into the void, his scales blazing bright orange like a small star. And Ben watched through their bond, as his dragon became exactly what he was always meant to be. A protector. Through the cargo bay window, Ben watched Rusty fly through space like he was born to it. The dragon's scales glowed bright orange, creating a trail of light behind him. His wings did not flap like they would in atmosphere. Instead, they stretched out like solar sails, catching something Ben could not see. Rusty moved fast, faster than should be possible, weaving through debris and weapons fire. The pirate ship hung in the distance, a sleek black vessel covered in weapons. It had already crippled the civilian transport and was now focusing on the Wanderer. Energy blasts tore through space, hitting the cargo hauler's shields. Each impact made the ship shake. Ben felt everything Rusty felt, the cold of space that somehow did not hurt, the freedom of having nothing around him, the ancient instinct to hunt, to fight, to protect. Rusty dove toward the pirate ship. On the bridge, Gren stared at his screens in disbelief. "What is that?" "It is the flame drake," Lee said, her fingers flying over her console. "Carter released it." "He did what?" Gren's voice rose. "That creature is worth millions and he just threw it into space." "Captain, look," Lee pointed at the main screen. Rusty reached the pirate ship and opened his mouth. Fire erupted, but not normal fire. In the vacuum of space, it burned blue-white superheated plasma that clung to the ship's hull like liquid. The metal began to glow red, then white. Alarms blared on the pirate vessel. The pirates tried to shoot Rusty, but the dragon was too fast. He flew in patterns that seemed random but were actually calculated. Ben could feel the intelligence behind each move. Rusty was not just attacking. He was thinking, planning, adapting. Another blast of fire, this time aimed at the pirate ship's engines. The superheated plasma ate through the armor. An explosion bloomed in silence and the pirate ship lost power. It drifted, dead in space. The crew of the Wanderer erupted in cheers. Paul was laughing. Other crew members were shouting in amazement. Even Gren looked impressed, though he tried to hide it. Ben leaned against the cargo bay wall, breathing hard. Through the bond, he felt Rusty's satisfaction. The dragon had protected his family. That was all that mattered to him. Rusty turned and flew back toward the Wanderer. He slipped through the open cargo bay doors, landing gracefully as Ben closed the outer doors and restored atmosphere. The dragon folded his wings and walked to Ben, pressing his head against the human's chest. "You did it," Ben said, wrapping his arms around Rusty's neck. "You saved everyone." The door to the cargo bay opened. Gren entered, followed by Lee, Paul, and half the crew. They all stared at Rusty with new eyes, not fear, not greed, respect. "That was the most incredible thing I have ever seen," Paul said quietly. Gren approached slowly. Rusty watched him, smoke curling from his nostrils. The captain stopped a few feet away and looked at Ben. "I owe you an apology, Carter. I was wrong." Ben blinked in surprise. "Sir, I saw credits when I should have seen what you saw, a living being, a partner." Gren's eyes moved to Rusty. "He saved us, saved that civilian ship. He could have escaped into space and never come back, but he came back to you." The bond is strong, Lee said. Stronger than I have ever documented. They are connected at a level most species never achieve. I know about flame drakes now, Gren continued. I have been reading the files. They bond for life. Separating them would be cruel, more than cruel, deadly. Ben felt relief flood through him. You are not going to sell him. No, Gren shook his head. But we need to talk about what comes next. Word is going to spread. A human with a flame drake. That has not happened in centuries. People will want to study you, interview you. Some will want to take him anyway. Let them try, Ben said. Rusty growled in agreement. The civilian transport sent a communication. Their captain appeared on screen, a reptilian alien with green scales and grateful eyes. Wanderer, thank you for your assistance. We thought we were finished until your dragon attacked the pirates. You saved 43 lives today. It was not our dragon, Gren said, glancing at Ben. It was our crew member's partner. The reptilian captain's eyes widened. A human bonded to a flame drake? That is remarkable. We are transmitting your heroism to the nearest station. This will be news across the sector. After the communication ended, Lee approached Ben. The captain is right. This is going to change things for you and for Rusty. I know. But there is something else you should know. Lee pulled up a file on her data pad. I found records, old records. Thousands of years ago, humans and flame drakes were partners. Common partners. They explored space together, built civilizations together. Then came the hunting. The drakes were nearly wiped out and the partnerships ended. Ben stared at the images on the screen. Ancient pictures of humans riding dragons through space, working together, living together. Why did no one know this? Ben asked. The history was buried, Lee said. Hidden by those who profited from hunting the drakes. They did not want people to know the truth, that humans and flame drakes belong together. Rusty made a sound almost like understanding. The dragon's scales pulsed with light. There might be other eggs, Lee continued. Hidden across the galaxy, kept by collectors who do not know what they have. If word spreads about you too, others might start looking, might start hatching them. Paul stepped forward. That would be good, right? Bring back the species. It would be wonderful, Lee said. But it also means danger. For every person who wants to help, there will be 10 who want to hunt, capture, profit. Ben looked at Rusty. The dragon looked back, and understanding passed between them. Their lives would never be simple, never safe, but they would face it together. Let them come, Ben said. We will be ready. Gren smiled slightly. Carter, how would you like a promotion? Ship's security officer, with your partner as our guardian. Ben felt Rusty's approval through the bond. I accept. The crew cheered again. Paul clapped Ben on the back. Lee smiled and scratched Rusty's chin. And in that moment, everything changed. 6 months had passed since Rusty saved the Wanderer. Ben stood in the cargo bay, now converted into Rusty's living space. The dragon was fully grown, measuring 20 feet from nose to tail. His wingspan stretched 40 feet when fully extended. The copper scales had deepened to a rich bronze, shot through with veins of gold. When he moved, light rippled across his body like water. The Wanderer had changed too. No longer just a cargo hauler, the ship now carried a reputation. People across the sector knew about the human and his dragon. Some called them heroes, others called them legends. A few called them fools who would get themselves killed. Ben did not care what they were called. He only cared that they were together. Message coming in, Lee called from the bridge. It is from the Galactic Council. Ben walked to the bridge with Rusty following behind. The dragon had learned to move carefully through the corridors, folding his wings tight and ducking his head. The crew no longer flinched when he passed. They called out greetings. Paul always saved scraps for meals. Another crew member had started leaving polished rocks in Rusty's space, which the dragon collected like treasures. On the main screen, an alien face appeared. She had pale blue skin and 4 eyes arranged vertically on her face. Behind her, a massive station floated in space, all gleaming metal and spinning rings. This is Council Representative Isara, Am I speaking with Ben Carter and his bonded flame Drake? You are, Ben said. We request your presence at Council Station. We have been studying the records of your partnership. What you have accomplished is remarkable. We wish to learn. More. Ben glanced at Gren. The captain nodded slightly. It was Ben's choice now. What exactly do you want to learn? Ben asked. Isara's expression softened. How to save a species from extinction. Your bond with the flame Drake proves that the old partnership can be restored. We have located 17 eggs across the galaxy, eggs hidden in private collections, museums, and forgotten vaults. We want to return them to humans who can bond with them, but we need to understand how the bond works first. Through his connection with Rusty, Ben felt excitement mixed with caution. More dragons, more partnerships. It was everything they had hoped for, but it was also dangerous. Who else knows about these eggs? Ben asked. Only the Council's inner circle, Isara said. But information leaks. We need to move quickly before hunters learn what we have found. Ben made his decision. We will come, but we have conditions. Name them. The eggs go to humans who want partners, not pets or weapons. The Council protects both the dragons and their bonded humans, and if anyone tries to hunt or harm any flame Drake, they answer to us. Isara's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Agreed, we will send coordinates. The Council looks forward to meeting you both. The communication ended. The bridge was silent for a moment, then everyone started talking at once. Paul was grinning. Lee was already pulling up files about the Council station. Even Gren looked pleased. This is it, Lee said. This is how we bring them back. The journey to Council Station took 3 days. As they traveled, Ben spent time with Rusty, strengthening their bond and preparing for what was to come. The dragon had grown so much from the tiny creature that hatched in Ben's room, but the core of who he was remained the same. Loyal, brave, kind. On the final night before arrival, Ben climbed onto Rusty's back. The dragon lay on the cargo bay floor, his massive body rising and falling with each breath. Ben settled between the wing joints, feeling the warmth of Rusty's scales through his clothes. Are you ready for this? Ben asked aloud. An image appeared in his mind, not from his memories but from Rusty's. Ancient memories passed down through generations. Humans and dragons flying together through nebulas, building cities on distant worlds, raising young together, human children playing with dragon hatchlings. Then darker memories, hunting. Pain, loss, the drakes fleeing into hiding, their numbers dwindling. Eggs hidden away, left to sleep for centuries because there was no one to hatch them safely. And finally hope, Ben finding the egg, the bond forming, the future opening up again. We will do this right, Ben promised, together. Rusty rumbled his agreement. The sound vibrated through Ben's entire body. They arrived at Council Station the next day. The structure was massive, easily 10 times the size of any station Ben had seen before. Ships from 100 different species came and went like insects around a flower. The Wanderer docked carefully. Ben and Rusty exited together, the dragon's presence causing gasps and whispers from everyone they passed. Security guards watched nervously. Children pointed and smiled. Ben felt Rusty's pride and kept one hand on the dragon's neck. Isara met them in a large chamber with a ceiling high enough for Rusty to spread his wings. Other council members stood around the room, representing dozens of species. All of them watched with intense interest. Welcome, Isara said. You have given us all hope, Ben Carter, hope that what was lost can be found again. The drakes were never lost, Ben said, just hidden, waiting. And now they wait no longer. Isara gestured, and several containers were brought into the room. 17 eggs, each glowing faintly with inner warmth. We have identified humans across the galaxy who possess the genetic markers for bonding. People with compassion, courage, and the ability to form deep connections. We will contact them, offer them the opportunity to partner with a flame Drake. Ben looked at the eggs and felt Rusty's joy. More dragons would hatch, more partnerships would form, the ancient bond would be restored. What do you need from us? Ben asked. Teach us, Isara said simply. Teach us how to bond, how to care for them, how to build the partnership so it lasts. Ben smiled. I can do that. Over the following months, Ben and Rusty became teachers. They showed others how to communicate through emotion, how to build trust, how to see dragons not as animals or tools, but as equals, as family. One by one, the eggs hatched. One by one, humans bonded with tiny dragons and began their own journeys. And Ben realized that the small stone he bought at a backwater market had not just changed his life. It had changed the galaxy. Rusty curled up beside him as they watched the newest dragon hatch, a silver creature with blue eyes. Its human partner, a young woman from a mining colony, held it carefully, tears streaming down her face. We did it, Ben whispered. Rusty's answer came as warm contentment. They had done more than survive. They had rebuilt what was broken, restored what was lost. And it all started with a tiny dragon sleeping in a backpack, waiting for someone to give him a chance.